Every now and then, after shooting optics for a while, you want to go back to something clean, something classic, which is exactly what this video is about, my CAR-15 inspired clone with iron sights. This retro build is an SBR that I built maybe 8 to 12 months ago, and I purposely went for a minimalist, clean, classic look, hence the lack of any optics or other attachments. But I do plan to put a light under the front sight post at some point, but I'm not really in any rush. However, I do need to shoot this gun a little more, because it's only had about 250 rounds through it. Up front, we have a standard A2 birdcage flash hider. It's nothing fancy, but it's also very nice and effective. The barrel itself is a 12.5 inch barrel that I bought from Criterion, and it's chambered in 223 Wylde and has a 1 1/8 twist. Since the handguards are so skinny and the gun is just so light as it is, I really don't feel the need for any kind of vertical grip to help with the C-clamp. I purchased this Delton stripped upper receiver from Gunbroker for maybe around 120 bucks or so, and then the rear sight assembly I bought separately from Fulton Armory. That was a pain in the ass to install, but we made it work. The bolt I have in here now is the PSA Premium BCG, which I do plan to replace eventually. It used to be a Toolcraft Phosphate BCG in this gun, but as suggested in the comments from my M16A4 video, since I shoot that gun so much more, I swapped the two bolts. As you can see here, there's really nothing wrong with the PSA BCG, but now just, after shooting for a little longer, I do prefer a different brand for such an important component. But it's staked properly, it's worn just fine, and there really aren't any issues. This really is just a personal preference. And the charging handle is also just a regular charging handle that I got from Fulton Armory. The gun's action isn't really as smooth as others when I rack the charging handle, but I attribute this to the fact that I've only shot 250 rounds through this gun versus anywhere from 2,000 to maybe 7,500 in some of my other guns. So I don't think it's exactly a fair comparison. Like my M16A4, the lower receiver on this gun is also from BCM, but I just changed the grip and the stock for something a little more period correct. It's not to say this is entirely the correct parts to use, but it looks aesthetically so. The stock is the M4 sliding stock from Aero Precision, and it was maybe $20 to $30, so it was a pretty hard deal to pass up on. I did notice that it was a little loose on the buffer tube the first time I installed it. That's nothing that a couple of strips of electrical tape didn't take care of, and it tightened up very significantly. And finally, for the trigger group, it's BCM's PNT trigger, which, as I mentioned in a previous video, is really analogous to just a very well-warded mil-spec trigger. So that's an overview of the parts of my CAR-15 inspired clone. As the purists can probably pick up, this is not exactly very clone or period correct strictly, hence the inspired that I put in there, just to kind of give myself a disclaimer. But aesthetically it looks great and it kind of captures the feel that I'm going for. As I've mentioned a few times, a kind of clean and classic look, just with iron sights. I've always seen this gun as a little more of a fun kind of range gun instead. I definitely would trust it with my life for a home defense or something, but in that case I would probably at least want to put a flashlight on it, as I mentioned earlier, and honestly something like an Aimpoint Pro or maybe even something smaller, maybe period correct, would also probably be a good option, especially in low light conditions. As I've kind of suggested throughout this video, what I really like about this gun is how light and maneuverable it is. So let's say I go and pick up my M16A4 or my 14.5 inch M4A1 Block 2 clone. Those are beefy boys, those are really thick rails and they're pretty heavy, maybe 8 or 9 pounds. And then I go and pick up this gun right afterwards, which I haven't actually put on the scale, but this clone is so much lighter and it makes a world of difference. Other than how light it is, also as I've suggested throughout the video, just the lack of any optics, just using iron sights is a nice way to kind of keep my foundational skills. And it's just fun, like straight up, it's just a good way to throw back to basics, and that's why I like it a lot too. So otherwise, it's really about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and hopefully this maybe inspires you to build your own clone. As we all know, that became all the rage maybe like a year ago in the gun community to do the retro builds, and I obviously was bitten by that bug too. And so hopefully you found this entertaining and enjoyable, and I'll see you in the next one.